Mr. Speaker.
Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to quote something that was posted on my Facebook before we came to the House at 2 p.m. God and soldier we adore in times of trouble and in war. Trouble gone and all things righted. God forsaken, soldier slighted. Sir, a couple of weeks back, New Zealand First, I, on behalf of New Zealand First, put out an invitation to all ministers and all members of the House, to those who support our armed forces and our police, including their families, in the battle against suicide, to attend a book launch to be hosted this evening of the book Your Subconscious Bodyguards, a good news story about PTSD, written by Dion Jensen. Sir, we put out a press release on that and gave the background. Dion Jensen is a Kiwi veteran. He served in East Timor. He served as a New Zealand police officer and as a security contractor in Iraq. He has drawn on his experiences in dealing with his demons to produce, through his book, a tool and a program to help veterans, police officers, indeed anyone, to identify their symptoms and deal with PTSD. Noting the low numbers of people who've accepted that invitation, we put out a press release last night, again advising ministers that the book launch was happening this evening, and why we felt it would be a good thing for people to attend. We followed up with some phone calls. It's interesting and sadly ironic, Mr. Speaker, that this morning we read the story and stuff of the report of the decision of the Wellington District Court, which overturned ACC's decision to decline a 56-year-old Army veteran's application for cover and compensation for PTSD. Looking at this case, we see the same old issues that have been raised over the last 30 to 40 years. This man, Mr. Speaker, has served his nation. He served in Afghanistan, he served in the police force, and in the time of that service, he endured several traumatic incidents, particularly whilst on his tour of duty in Afghanistan in 2009. He witnessed such things as fatal rocket attacks and watched as a helicopter carrying 16 people exploded and crashed. There's a list of things in here, Mr. Speaker, that this man has endured, but what stands out very, very clearly is that post his discharge from the Army, post his inability to continue his employment in the police force, he ended up, as seems to be par for the course, in a battle with ACC, who adopted a very stingy approach to his, and mean-spirited approach to his claim. And as his lawyer, John Miller, said, we wonder sometimes how people who argue the ACC points and deprive returned service personnel who have been diagnosed with PTSD compensation can sleep at night. Mr. Speaker, politicians are not held in high esteem by the Defence Force, and there's very good reason for that. Very often when Defence Force personnel deploy, they are sent off with accolades and promises afoot as to how well they'll be treated when they return home. We wax lyrical on those deployments, both in this House, and we do so again on Anzac Day, where we laud and applaud, and we honour those who died. But where we fail so consistently, Mr. Speaker, is to honour and support those who have returned home, complete in body, but who have already fallen internally through PTSD. We throw them back into the mental health system which fails them. We throw them back into a very heartless, mechanised system we call ACC, and we leave them to flounder as their marriages fall apart, as their relationships fall apart, and they head down a pathway to depression and suicide. Mr. Speaker, this evening at 6 p.m, we will host a book launch. And speaking at that book launch will be Dion Jensen, the author, and also another gentleman, Major Gordon Benfield, with an astonishing military career, but a man who suffers PTSD. We, New Zealand First, would like to see those members of the House who support our veterans, and I mean truly support our veterans, appear there. And top of that list, we would like to see walk through the door, because they have declined these invitations, the Minister of Health, the Minister of ACC, the Minister of Veterans Affairs, and the Minister of Defence. And we note also that the Minister of House was a former Minister of Defence. all the more reason why they should front and just listen. That would be very helpful.
Simon O'Connor.